Fatherhood. I think this industry's got a serious problem right now. It's another Wednesday. Another Iman Gadzi course has been released.
Yeah.
And, that's 52 courses this year now. So I'm kidding.
Is it the 15th of January?
Yeah. But we're at that stage now where everyone's just releasing courses on, the same shit on repeat. How to get another lime green Lamborghini, as we always speak about. And what I like about you, mate, is that you're going down a completely different route of fatherhood and, something that isn't being promoted in this industry, but I see the industry heading that way. For somebody who's already done it, for somebody who's getting older, although, you can't tell. Somebody who's getting older, who wants to follow in those footsteps and do the same thing and sees that as the end goal. I look at somebody like you and I think that's inspiring. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're balancing it all. And as much like a lot of the guys follow me because I can give advice on these sort of topics. And, in terms of like life advice, I'm giving advice on that because I'm further ahead. You're further ahead than me in that area. So for somebody like me who's like, I would like to settle down with somebody. I would like to have a family. I'd like to build my empire. But then you go, who am I going to do it with? Every time you get close, you go, shit, there's a commitment. It gets a little bit... So it's just so many questions that I've got for a man that's done it. And how do you feel on the other side?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, if that makes sense? So the first question for me is, like, how did you know it was one woman forever and nobody else? Because that's one thing I think that goes through a lot of men's heads is like, if I'm getting better, if I'm improving, if more women are finding me attractive and stuff like that, and then you go, but I'm just going to select one forever. And you're like, what's the upside there? Now I think I know, but hearing it from a guy who's done it, who lives it.
Yeah, so I think the upside for you is stability. Just knowing that you've got someone to support you. Rather than being on the chaotic dating scene, which
it
is great initially, but for you, mate, because I know you're single and you've kind of got some options. It's still something else you have to think about. Whereas I can come here today, I can sit with you and have a chat, and I know I don't have to think about what my wife's doing, like she's just taking care of shit. And when you have a woman like that in your life, it does put you at peace. And I think for a lot of men, especially young guys, their life is chaos constantly. They're trying to grow a business, they're trying to get jacked, they're trying to find a woman, they're trying to do X, Y, Z with whatever it is, maybe support family members. And if you have more on top of that, it can tip you away from, sanity in a way. But if you've got a rock to lean on and one woman to support you no matter what, you can always go to that. It's almost like your checkpoint, basically. You can just always go back to it. So I'm not saying...
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, I'm not saying you need to kind of go to her and speak about your emotions and cry on her shoulder and all of this stuff. But if I get in today and I've had a rough day, not that I will, right? I'm literally sitting here doing the easiest job in the world.
So this is
having a conversation, right? But it's pretty good.
Fun.
But if something goes wrong, I get in, I know that she's just there, and I don't need to chew her ear off. I just having her there, like her energy, just makes me feel better. Whereas I don't then have to think about finishing up my day, going out on a date, traveling to see somebody. That's good. Like I said, it is good. It has its benefits. But I think for me, just having one woman there is something I've always wanted. And I just knew the benefits, and I kind of dug into it as well. I didn't just kind of go off my own intuition, which I do recommend a lot of people do. But in certain situations, you do need to kind of lean on other people's experiences. One of those people was my dad. And I've mentioned before, he's been married to my mum for 38 years. They've been together for 44 years officially, like when they met at such a young age. And I just asked him, I was just like, what's the benefit, to marriage and to long-term relationships? And he gave me a few pointers, and I was like, you know what? That really relates to what I want my life to look like and what I want my relationship to look like. Which is easy to say because he's my dad, but he could have had a completely different viewpoint to me, right? We all have our own opinions and values. But then when I heard that from him, and someone obviously I respect and admire, someone I want to learn from, it validated that. And I was like, no, I'm going to lean into it more now. And that's what we're trying to do today. If guys are on the fence about it and they're sort of watching this, you've got to try and lean into it a little bit more and just maybe trust yourself a bit more, because it can be scary, right? Just to commit.
Yeah.
But and not be free anymore. But The upside can be huge if you do it right. It honestly is.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me is like, okay, you're going to do this, you have to do it right.
Yeah.
It's like, did you have any fears of like, I pick this woman, I marry her, I have, kids, which we'll get onto in a minute, and it could end? Was there any fear of that? It's if it ends, the thing is, if it works, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. If it ends, it's catastrophic. Because it's like, now you've got to do co-parenting, now you and that woman hate each other, now you've got to go out into the market again as a man who has kids.
Yeah, it's scary thinking that stuff through. It did cross my mind, but not to a point where it overwhelmed me, not to a point where it dominated. I think it needs to cross every guy's mind. It needs to cross every woman's mind as well. What if something goes wrong? I think you need to think like that in any scenario anyway. What if this goes wrong? What if this business goes wrong? But also you need to think about, well, what if it goes right? And that needs to be 80% of your thinking. And it's the same with a relationship. What if it goes right 80% of the time and there's that little 20%? Because no relationship is perfect. But communication is why relationships break down. I think if you have clear intentions and clear boundaries from the start, you kind of destroy any sort of major issues. You'll have minor disagreements, of course you will, like you will in any relationship. People disagree with their family, they disagree with their siblings, disagree with friends, no different to relationships, married or not. But if you always set the intention of communicating as clearly as possible in any situation, it's like being on a battlefield and having a clear plan of attack. You always have a briefing before you go into the battle.
Yeah.
And it's not that marriage is a battle, but you need to have a plan of how you're going to support each other, how you're going to raise your kids if you have them, which like you said, we'll get into, how you're going to hit your goals together. And once you have that and you can both see that vision, you kind of see the potential roadblocks there, and they're just so easy to navigate rather than hitting them and going, what do we do now? And then you end up having friction in your relationship, you end up arguing with polarizing opinions or differing opinions. Actually, if you're on the same path, you can just kind of help each other climb it together. And so many people miss that. I think there's a lot to be said for divorce rates and lack of communication. I'm pretty sure if you look into the statistics, not that I know them off the top of my head, I reckon communication would be number one and number two for the reason most marriages break down. People can just be selfish because they're like, I've got what I wanted now, I've got the marriage, I've got the woman, I've got the man. And then they just kind of shut down and they're a little bit selfish because they think that their partner's never going to leave them. But you have to work on it. Marriage is not the end goal. Marriage is the beginning. Once you put the ring on the finger, you still have to continue. That work you've put into the relationship to get this partner to the point where they want to commit to you. For, in my case, it was 7 years, right? 2014 to 2021 when we got married. 7 years of work. And I'm just going to go, it's done now. You know what I mean? She's married me. She's never going to leave me. Like, that's such a stupid attitude. Yeah, it's such a weak attitude to have.
Have you ever heard the Rio Ferdinand? For those of you who don't know, Rio Ferdinand's a footballer. And they said, what did you think when you ran on the pitch for Leeds when he first started his career? And he was like, I felt like that was day one. You know, people were like, did you think you made it? Oh, I'm here now, I've made it. He was like, I realised, like, okay, it starts now. It gets serious. And he said he had the same feeling when he went to United, like, okay, I've got to work even harder now. And I know it's a weird example to use, but would you say marriage is the same? Where it's like, okay, now we are married, we have to really, like, knuckle down now, because this is serious.
Yeah, once you've made that commitment, you are all in. Do you know what I mean? You can't just half-arse it. And that's how marriage is treated nowadays. It's seen as an end goal. It's like in business, it's 10K a month. And most people think, oh, once I get to 10K a month, I've cracked it. I'm the best entrepreneur in the world. I can just sit back. No, this is just the beginning now. Do you know what I mean? You're playing a big game now. You're pulling in 5 figures a month, which most people can only dream about. And marriage is the same. It's like you found your partner. You can't just rest on your laurels. In the dating scene, you don't have to push too hard because you've got options. Right? If one falls through, so what? Move on to the next person. But marriage isn't like that. And people see marriage as, I've got the ring now.
That's so true.
I've got the ring now. I can just sit back. Nothing bad's going to happen. I've made it. And it's like, yeah, but you still have... It's like running a marathon and then not recovering, not stretching, not hydrating, not eating. It's like, I've run the marathon. Now I don't need to recover. And you're going to be sore for days and you're going to be like injured and everything. It's going to take you long. You still have to put the work in post goal, right? So it does frustrate me when people just see that as the end goal. And I do believe, again, with communication, that's why divorce rates are so high, because people just get lazy. And the mentality is, that's it now.
Dive deeper into communication. What do you mean? Like, is it sitting down with your missus at the, like, every day do a checklist? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the extreme, or is it like, you know, are you noticing things before she mentions them to you? Like, what do you mean by communication?
Yeah, I think it is noticing things and communicating to her what you clearly want to do with your life, and what you want her to do with her life, and what she wants to do with her life, and what you want to do together. That can come before marriage as well. But you still need to do it when you're married. Like I told my missus my business goals, what I want to achieve, how I want to live my life before we got married, but I still do it to this day. And she understands that that's the mission, and she can also get a great life off the back of that, but I can also get a great life off the back of how she wants to live her life. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of coincide with each other. We coexist as a unit. And the other aspect to communication is not sitting down and doing a regimented checklist every day. Maybe sometimes you just sit with your wife and go, how do you feel today? How's your day? Anything you want to talk about? Literally, that's all it is, fellas. Like, if you're just sitting on your ass, both of you on your phones while the TV's in the background, and then you go to bed and you don't talk to each other. Like, I know marriages like that. I know relationships like that. And it's just not, how you can sit there and think that that is a happy marriage is beyond me. It's just not conducive to a good environment at all. And then you add kids in the mix when you're tired and stressed. It's like, no, with marriage you need to prepare. You need to prepare for the next step, the next phase, because you're only ever moving towards future. So where's your marriage going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? My mum and dad's case, 38 years, right? Where's it going to be at that point if right now you continue acting like that? So communication can be very subtle, but also being on the same path together, that's something that communication can do. So it's like, all right, in 5 years I'd like us to be here, maybe living in this house, living in this environment, maybe we homeschool the kids, maybe you're not working, or maybe your missus has climbed the career ladder and, you know, she's got to a really good point where you don't have to work anymore. Sometimes that can happen, right? Rare cases that can happen, but...
The dream.
Yeah, you'd be a house husband, right? But that in a rare situation could be a couple's goal, right? Maybe the guy has ambition, but his wife has also got herself in a great position where she can work, and the roles are reversed, right? I would never recommend that because I do feel that some men would go insane, but you can still have a happy, harmonious marriage doing that. So there's all kinds of things to consider, but you don't get that by communicating. There's so many situations that you can be in if you don't communicate, and they can all be bad. Very rare cases, they can be great or good. If you kind of just put your blinkers on and walk somewhere, you know, if I shut my eyes and walked out there, I'd probably end up being hit by a train. Do you know what I mean? Or a bit walking in the river, right? So you're hoping for the best. You're hoping that nothing hits you, nothing hurts you, and it's like your missus can suddenly say to you when you least expect it, I want this in my life. You're like, well, we didn't speak about that. Where does that leave me? And then you're like, oh shit, I've too far gone in this scenario now. I'm so far away from where she wants to be. And it just causes this huge gap between you. My missus from day one knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So she knows the path I'm on. She knows it's going to be hard, and she understands that. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have married her. Right? If she was kicking off every time I wanted to come to London or, you know, work late in rare cases and take calls with clients and have times where your money doesn't go to plan, right? I probably wouldn't have married her. It probably would have been a big issue. And that's not me being selfish. It's just being committed to each other, because I knew as well that if I made it and I found the right woman, like I have, I can give her a fantastic life, and I don't have to be bound to a desk and then 9 to 5 and commuting and miss time with my kids. That would literally kill me inside. I'd just die a little bit every day. And it's a horrible position to be in.
I was going to ask you why her, but I think you kind of answered it there. Like, she allows you to be who you want to be. But so I'll twist that and say, what motivates you? Like, what motivates you to, what is it about, you know, that family structure that you now have? What is it? What gives you that buzz when you wake up in the morning? Like, how do you feel? Like, how describe that to young men out there that are like, I'm going to make millions, get the lime green Lamborghini, take a shot. And then you know, just travel the world, just sleeping with women from all different ethnicities and continents and whatnot, because that's what a lot of guys think that happiness is. Like, describe to them how you feel every day, like how fulfilled you feel.
I think the two words I'd use to summarize it are peace and contentment. I think happiness is a fleeting state that so many people chase and always trying to grab it and latch on, and it always passes you by. It's like motivation and willpower. They're just fleeting states. There are days where you wake up and you feel invincible and you're like, why can't I feel like this every day? It's because you don't have the habits in place, and you've done something previously, or you've had something happen to you previously that's given you that state. And that's what people are chasing. They're chasing that high all the time. If you chase peace and contentment and you feel good in yourself, and you wake up in the morning and you don't have a racing heart rate, you don't feel anxious 7 days a week, maybe you feel it twice a week, that's a good thing.
That's a good ratio.
You know what I mean?
I'll take that.
Yeah. So 80% of the time you're peace content, and then 20% of the time you wake up, you're like, right, let's get to work today. Or you've got bills to pay, you need to go make money, or whatever it is. Like, that's par for the course as an entrepreneur. But if you're chasing that state and you're disrupting peace and contentment, you'll have the opposite. You'll just always be in that chaotic spiral, and then you attract people like that as well into your life. If you have that chaotic spiral, that anxious energy, you'll attract a woman that's exactly like that. And even in the moments, the 20%, if it's roles reversed, the 20% where you're peace and content compared to the 80% chaos that you usually live, whereas I'm the opposite, she'll see that and be like, oh, who is he? Like, this, he's really calm now. Like, he's really, usually you're vibing on the same level. So obviously, who you become, you attract, from the opposite point of view. So if I'm a peaceful and content guy, I will attract a peaceful and content woman in my life. If I'm an erratic, emotional man, probably attract an erratic and emotional woman into my life, which eventually it's going to wear both of us out, right? And we're going to drift apart. So you get the odd case where the peaceful and content guy can find an attractive, emotional, erratic woman. That's very rare, because most of the time he'll just be like, nah, or she'll be like, nah, he's not on my level.
He's boring.
He's boring. He's too stoic.
Too old for me,
Doesn't show his emotions.
There's women that say I need drama. It's like you.
Yeah.
Maybe you do, but I don't.
Yeah, you see women on like sidemen videos where they're like, oh, I need a man who can handle me and tame me. It's like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Why do you need to say that? Why do I need to tame you? And it's the same for a guy. If a guy's like, oh, I'm ambitious and I'm going to smash the gym 6 days a week, and women are just like, shut up, man. Honestly, like,
I saw
you're
one
chaotic.
The other day. I had to comment on it, and I never comment. But it was this woman made a video saying, "Oh, men don't want the calm, nice woman. They want the woman who's crazy, who's caused them issues. That's who they want to chase."
Oh, okay.
And it's like, ladies, be the chaotic, whatever. And I was like, look, I'm gonna have to comment. What are you doing? I was like, as a guy who, does tick the garbage boxes of like top 0.1% income to 6 foot whatever, like I was like, I tick those boxes, and that's the last thing I want. I was like, not saying you want me, but I'm in that criteria, and that's the last thing I want. I'm telling you from experience, my life is fucking stressful. If on top of that my woman is stressful, I'm not happy. I want to go and meet my woman, sit down with her, have some food, talk about life, relax. She wants to cuddle up to you. She wants to meet you. If you're like, my life's stressful and you're causing me a headache and I don't know where we stand, I've got to get rid of you. Yeah. It's like you're teaching these women the polar opposite because you've had an experience with 2 or 3 crazy guys who are probably a little bit nuts, who are sociopaths or narcissists or whatnot. And you've gone, they don't want the nice woman because I was the nice woman. It's like, no, you lady are nuts. You just can't see it. Like, you are the nuts girl that they ran away from, and you think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag other happy women down with me because misery loves company, and that's what they're doing. And you've got to know, you get older, you get to our age, you can see it in our industry. Who's just trying to destroy other men? Who's just trying to make sure that they're not going to be in relationships? Who's going to make sure that they're going to be single forever? All circle jerking each other over red pill and stuff like that. And like, let's not fap together. And it's like, then you see the guys who are like, no, I genuinely want the best for you. And if you end up doing better than me, then well done. I'm happy. Like I've said multiple times, if you use my content for 2-3 years and it gets you where you need to be, and then you don't need to watch it anymore, I've done my job. Whereas some people are like, stick with me for 10 years, buy all of my courses. It's like, don't trust that guy. You can't trust that person. That's bad. No, that's why I see similar situation. How did it change you as a man? Like deciding, okay, I'm going to get married. Like, because people say it with kids as well. They know that, let's say with the whole family unit, let's move into like kids and everything that you've built. Because I do think it's an empire, the same way a business is an empire. I think it works in the same way. Let's say you met, you decided, okay, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have kids with this woman. Did your mind overnight just go, I'm going to have to evolve. I'm going to have to become that type of guy that can handle that?
I think in some cases, yeah, the situations that I've been in, I think, yeah, I need to step up more in that one because you find out a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
When you know that you're committed, you need to continue to make her happy and be there for her. There's a lot of things that kind of show up and you expose yourself in a way and you're like, oh shit, I'm vulnerable now. I need to put all my flaws out to the world and kind of see where I need to level up because I've got this woman to look after, or I've got this, I've got my son to take care of. So you can't hide from that. And the more you try and shut it off, the more you try and sit back and go, nah, I'm all right now, I don't do anything. The harder things become because you're not trying to carry the relationship. You're not trying to help your wife. You're not trying to do things. You're just sort of letting her take over, or you're just giving in. Like I said earlier, it's like, the job's done now. It's not right. It's like when, guys find out the woman's pregnant, weak men, and then they just run away. It's like, I've got her pregnant. What do I do now? And they panic. It's like, no, you need to step up now. This is what you wanted. This was the risk that you took. And there's a lot to be said for obviously their upbringing or maybe what they've gone through with their parents, whatever. Maybe they've got a lot of trauma and it scares them. But change it. Try and change the narrative, And same with marriage. I mentioned in one of our previous chats that people were scared of marriage because the divorce rates are so high. It's like, well, stand on the other side. You don't have to be a person that risks being a statistic just because you got married. It's like, stand on the other side of the happy marriages. And that's what everyone loves to look at. It's like, our divorce rates are climbing, don't get married. Well, what about, if it's at 55%, what about the 45% that are really happy? That's a shitload of people, shitload of couples, right? So why not stand on that side and go, you know what, I can live a happy marriage, because it's still a good proportion.
Yeah.
If it was 90% divorce rate and 10%, I'd be like, all right, that's a problem. But 45% compared to 55, I don't know if divorce rates are 55. It might be. Last I heard it was 50. It might be higher than that. But either way, you've still got a very good chance of succeeding if you do the work. And marriage can just give you such a boost as a man. You have an innate drive to be better. I do anyway, I'm speaking from personal experience. A lot of guys would though, like my dad did. My dad worked 4 jobs. He went from working 1 job to 4 jobs. And he kept doing that when my sister and I were growing up. And I do think I get that from him. He's never been lazy. He's always pushed himself. And I am the same. It's like, right, now I need to work harder because I don't want to lose this. For me, there was the element of, I've worked so hard to get this woman and I've made so many mistakes. I've gone through so many bad relationships and trial and error. I've now had her in my life for 7 years. I'm now married her. Why would I piss it all up the wall now? Why would I stop trying to become better? Why would I stop trying to provide and protect and disregard my health, disregard my mental well-being, disregard my financial situation? Why would I do that? Why wouldn't I just push? Why would I just stop and go, this is good enough? It's just not in my nature. And I think it's not in a lot of guys' nature. I think there are guys out there that have that, where they just put their feet up, but that's not who I'm talking to right now. And I know you're certainly not going to be one of them, mate. So I know a lot of guys that aren't. And I think if more men just questioned the way that they think about marriage, because I always use a line when people say, oh, you don't know about me, you don't know the situation I'm in, whatever, and they say that they can't change, or they say they don't want to change, or they envy people that are above them, and they say they couldn't do something because of their certain situation. I'm like, your best level of thinking in the years that you've been alive has got you in this exact position. So you don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe you need to question some of the thoughts that you have. And I always say that to myself. Everyone likes to be right in certain situations, but sometimes there can be an element where you sit down, you need to question that. And is this decision, is this path, is this a belief I have actually true? And a lot of the time it's guys, like we said, they don't want to get married. They want to build a business, they want to do this. It's like, is that really going to give you what you want? Is that really going to get you peace and contentment and give you the life that you desire? If so, crack on. No judgment here. But I do think a lot of guys could improve their situation if they're married or not, just by asking themselves a few more questions and thinking, do I know best, or can I learn from someone? like me with my dad, right? I'm 35 years old, so I'm a lot older than some of the people watching this, but I still want to learn every time. I'm not going to sit back and go, oh, I'm in my mid-30s, I feel like I know everything, I've got enough life experience, because I fucking don't, mate. You know what I mean? Like, my dad's in his 60s, and he's still asking people that are older than him. He still asks his brother, who's 7 years older than him, my uncle, now and again. 7 years is a long time. There might be something there that he could learn. And yeah, I think if you don't have that innate drive, like I've mentioned in this video, to evolve, question why. Because it gives you a better life if you have it. I'm speaking from experience. If you don't have it, you'll just be miserable.
Mate, touching on that, I do think that's a massive narrative in this industry. Like, we tar men with one brush. We just go, all men are the same, they all want the same thing. What I've noticed, especially from the school community, because you're speaking to these guys one-to-one, is they're like, that sounds great, Chris, thank you for teaching me how to attract women and whatnot, but I actually just want to find one, how do I do it? And I'm like, well, it is roughly the same system, but then you have to just change this and this. And you look at something like a Dan Bilzerian, I think he genuinely enjoyed it. People go, oh, he must be miserable. I think he loved it.
I think so too.
I think he's just the type of guy who's built for that, who enjoyed it, who didn't mind being single till he was 40, sleeping around, having fun, right? He was built for it, he was different. I think everyone's got a different timeline.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to go to 32, now it's kicking in where I'm like, okay, I want something more. I've had fun, I've enjoyed myself, traveled the world, you've done what you wanted to. It's like, I want something more now. There are guys that follow me that I speak to on school that are like, I'm 21, I'm a virgin, I'm religious, I just want one woman. And to them, if they had to go 5-6 years without anybody just enjoying themselves, long-term dating, it'd kill them. Yeah. They'd hate it. So it's like everybody's built different. On the topic of kids, are you ever ready? Everyone says that, you're never ready for kids. Like, from your experience, were you ready?
That's a great question, man. No. You think you are. You do think you are. I did. My missus did. But you're not. It is the...
Your kid had different ideas. Oh, you think you're ready?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, you'll be questioning whether when you're ready when you're waking up 5 times a night when they're not well and they're vomiting on you and there's nothing they can do because they're so innocent. And you're like, I just thought this would be so much easier. But it's the hardest thing you will ever do. Honestly, I've built a 6-figure business. I've lost half my income, then I've rebuilt it. And that's been since 2022. Prior to that, I was faffing about with ideas and trial and error. And I was in a business partnership that didn't work out. None of that compares to raising a kid. It's incredibly rewarding. Like, I think about my son every day and I can't wait to get home and see him when I'm away from him. As purposeful as I am in regards to what I want to achieve in my life and for my family, he's always on my mind, as is my wife. It's like, I know I've got that to go back to. You know what I mean? It is like my peace, like I mentioned, in amongst the chaos of entrepreneurship. And when you think about it like that, all of the stuff that you have to go through, especially in the newborn phase, where they're growing so fast and they're waking constantly and all they want is comfort. And a lot of the time they don't want it from the dad, they want it from the mum. So you've got to then support the mum because she's exhausted. In my missus' case, she's breastfeeding as well. So that drains her energy, and if you're not there as a man for her in that bubble, in that baby bubble initially, it can be very, very toxic and very hard. You're both extremely tired. You're both extremely stressed. You've still got work to do. Even though my missus is on maternity, she still has to do stuff around the house. I have to go and work. It was extremely stressful and I still managed to build a business. If guys watch my story, if they see on my channel, go back and look at my story. I've documented everything from my son being born in December 22 to me starting my brand new brand in 23, building it to 6 figures, 2024, losing a lot of my income, trusting some wrong people. And now 2025, I'm sitting here with you. We've known each other for about a year or so now, and we've been chatting a lot, and we've wanted to do this for a long time. I've gone through all of that stuff, and like I said, I would do it all again if it meant that I could raise my son from day one again, because I know now how rewarding it can be. And at the start, you never do. I think that's why people feel like they're not ready, is because they don't know what they're working towards. It just feels so crazy, and you're so tired. You cannot describe how tired you are. Like,
really?
It's honestly, it's like to your core, because you are running on 3-4 hours sleep a night for I was probably 6 to 8 weeks continuously. And all it's getting you through,
I was going to ask you, what is it that keeps you going?
all that's getting you through is adrenaline and coffee and cortisol in your body, just pumping it out.
What do you think the adrenaline is? Is it like just a desire for your baby? Is that what it is?
Physiologically.
Like, I have to.
Yeah,
Otherwise that
physiologically,
kid
I
dies.
think it's just something kicks in and your body is like, well, we have this infant to protect and you just keep going, like you just can't stop. You get through it. It's awful, but you get through it. It's awful in the sense of how tired you are. I mean, I was smashing snus pouches and caffeine. I was doing like 5 or 6 cups of coffee, drinking Monster. I just had to do what I had to do. And the funny thing was, when I was building that previous business, I was actually talking to entrepreneurs about sleep and performance and helping them with their energy. So there was a little bit for me of the imposter syndrome, because it was like, I'm doing all of this stuff and I have the knowledge, but my sleep is garbage myself because I've got a newborn baby to raise. There's a video I've posted of me sitting at my desk and my wife was napping downstairs and I had my son in a Moses basket next to me and he was sleeping and I was working. And I took every opportunity I could to work because I had to. I just got out of a business partnership and I'd had to provide. And it goes back to the drive to provide and the evolving yourself, as we said previously. But going back to being ready, nah, you'll never be ready. You just have to know what you want. I knew I wanted a kid, whether it was a boy or a girl. I knew I wanted to be a dad because I knew how happy it made my parents. And I was like, I want that feeling as well. And then you're like, oh yeah, you see all the baby pictures and the cute clothes and you're like, oh, it'd be amazing. And when you're in the trenches, and when they get to a toddler stage and they're developing and they have tantrums and they're starting to say words and they're starting to test you a little bit more, like, it's like, that's hard as well, but it's not as hard, but it's still hard. But yeah, man, I don't want to say that fatherhood isn't rewarding, because it is, and I don't want to scare anybody, but you just have to realize you're just never ready. Same with the business. You're never ready with a business. You have the best plan in the world, but you just have to step off the ledge and go, right, I'm all in now.
Sometimes I'm sat there thinking, I am the bollocks. I've done everything I ever need to do. I'm making a fortune. Look at me in this castle. And then there's certain days where you just go, I'm 4 years old again and I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, do you know what I mean? If he was alive, I'd be like, Dad, can you help me? Like, it just hits you so hard and you go, fuck me.
Yeah.
That's come out of nowhere.
Yeah, you're looking out at this view and you question every decision you've ever made. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, I'm the best entrepreneur in the world.
Let me go.
That's exactly the same with fatherhood. That's a great way of comparing it, because sometimes you question what you're doing for your kid. Are you raising them right? Are you giving them enough nutritious food? Are they sleeping enough? Are you doing the right thing to get them to sleep? Do they love you enough? And then the next day you're like, this is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like when they're just asleep on your chest. There's a great clip that we need to show everyone from Chris Bumstead. I showed it to you last week.
Yeah.
And like, he's like the peak of masculinity. You know what I mean? He's like 6'2", bearded, jacked. Was he 8-time Mr. Olympia or something like that? And he's just breaking down, literally just talking about his daughter falling asleep on his chest. And that's what you need to remember. That's the moments you need to capture. Like when they're crying and they're upset, and then all of a sudden they just calm down and you feel them relax. You literally feel that their breathing just goes, and they just fall asleep on your chest. You're like, it's the best thing ever. And they're so tiny and innocent. And it's same with business. Like you get the days where you do feel like shit. You do question everything. And then you get the days where people give you great feedback or they leave amazing testimonials about 1M International, right? And all of this stuff, it's like, yeah, actually it is worth it for these singular moments just here.
Yeah, you live for those small moments, don't you?
You do.
That's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, obviously I've said to guys for years, like, stay single for longer, be selfish, put all your money and time back into yourself. Once you're established and set up, go and get your woman, have your family, whatever. I think that's one route.
Absolutely.
But there's also another, and I think it does work, but I think there is another route, which I've seen happen, where guys have like, life's going nowhere, and then they've gone and got, somebody pregnant, and they've gone, okay, it's go time. I'm going to have to really sort myself out. You see statistics which are like, married men statistically make more money. My argument always was women just want to marry rich men. I would say it makes so much more sense. Or guys that are showing ambition and stuff like that. So I was like, that data is flawed. However, do you think there's something to like, okay, I've got these people to provide for now. I have to do this, that it kicks you up the arse and actually makes you, as difficult as it is, it's almost, the obstacle is the way. You know that book where it's like, it stands in front of you and you go, I have to rise to the occasion. and if I don't, I just crumble. And that's where you get those guys that are like deadbeat dads that just disappear, they never pay any bills and whatnot. It's like they crumbled. Whereas like a man like you rises to the occasion, crashes through it. That's when you get those like ultra results that you didn't know you were capable of. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely. Yeah. The way you just described there is the way I've gone. I didn't just get my missus pregnant and then go, I need to commit. It's like we had a proper relationship, but my life was going nowhere. I was overweight. I was in a job I hated. I had her, and I was like, this is the thing that I want to nurture. Like and how can I do it? Well, I knew I'd wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was about 18. So I was like, I might as well commit to this now. And how much worse can my life get? I just hated my job. I was like, my health was awful. And again, all of this is in my story. I've documented it. A bit like you, when you're working in a garage and all like covered in dust, and now you're here, right?
Yeah.
It's great to show that side. So you've gone down the path of building your empire without someone near you. I'm trying to do it the complete opposite way. And I've got a kid, and I'm started a new brand again, literally November last year. Rebuilt my entire business inside out, cut everything out. And I was like, right, I really want to talk about health, performance, business, fatherhood, and relationships. Those are the things that stand out to me, and I really want to help guys with that. And back in the day, I was like, I'm going to work towards that. I'm going to work towards having a brand that eventually does that. And yeah, it's not gone to plan, but I think doing it that way has shown me a lot about myself, because it's been really, really hard. Because it's like, my son's 2 years old, so the last 2 years I've had to provide for him. My missus has been on maternity, had to provide for her. Pay's terrible, as it is in the UK. She gets 3 months full pay, and then that's it. So it's like 9 months of struggle. She gets a bit here and there, but it's just statutory. It's just terrible. It's like, it's like 150 a week, 160 a week or something like that.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous, right? When you've got a mortgage and bills to pay and a kid to raise, it's like, nah. And cars and everything. So I've had to do it with all of that stuff. I would never advise people to do it that way, because it is very, very hard. I'd always say go down the route that Chris is suggesting, because once you have that in play, then you can obviously make the move with the relationship. But I mentioned in a podcast that we did a while back, if you only fixate on money, and you only fixate on success and materialism, and you disregard relationships completely at that point, in my opinion, that's just stupid. You've always kept an open mind to relationships, and that's the difference. It's like, if you got to a point where you were 28 or 30, or 2 to 4 years ago, and your business was doing well, not where it is now, but it's still doing well, but you met the right woman at that point, you're giving yourself an option. Most guys would be like, I'm not where I want to be financially yet, disregard her. She could have been the perfect woman for you, but you never gave her a chance. For me, that's a stupid mentality to have. That's the drive to be in a relationship can get stronger as it is for you now, but to completely shut it off, I just don't think that's human. I think that's borderline psychopathic, to be fair. I think the attitude of cutting your friends out, cutting off all relationships, not wanting to commit to anyone just because you want to build a business is just stupid. For me, it was like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I've also got a great woman. I want to commit to her first and see where I end up. And yeah, it's been really hard, but I'm in a position now that, no uncertain terms, a lot of guys are envious. I'm not a multimillionaire, but I'm sitting here with you talking about this stuff because people like you are asking me questions as a mate, and it's like, that shows that I must be doing something right. I'm older than you by 3 years, but it's like, okay, I must be doing something right. So financially, I'm not where I want to be, but I've got a great family dynamic, and I'm free to do what I want, and I don't have to work a 9 to 5. I've got enough money in the bank. Something must be there. So you can win both ways, but I wouldn't advise people go down my path because it was extremely stressful. So yeah, listen to what Chris has to say about it. And I'd advise you to obviously carry on as you are, mate, because you're doing a great job. But yeah, I would definitely do it differently if I had to, in regards to some of the choices I made. But would I disregard relationships? No way, because it's given me everything I've ever wanted.
Mate, to wrap up, tell me about, we did the documentary Fatherless Generation.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how important fathers were until I sat down with some of the experts and heard the statistics of
it's mind-blowing.
More likely to do this, more likely to do that, more like, if you want to go and watch it, guys, it's on the school community. It's a documentary called Fatherless Generation. It's brilliant, even though I say so myself, not because of me, because of the people that are in it. And the statistics that they revealed just blew my mind. I was like, I'm so important as a man, like my role. Go into that, like how important do you feel to your son's life? Like how important do you think your role is in like allowing him to be who he's going to become, being stern when you have to, like what's the sense of responsibility that you feel? And like there's a lot of guys out there, and this is why I mentioned earlier, not everyone's built for the Dan Bilzerian life. For a lot of guys, they need purpose, and their purpose is I am the man of the family, I'm the provider, and that makes them grow. They become who they want to be. One of the guys that we interviewed actually said that somebody was suicidal and just wanted to end his life and stuff like that. And then once he heard, because he was in the black pill communities and whatever, and then once he heard from this guy that, you know, you are needed. You are seriously needed. Here's the statistics. Like your role as a father is so important in this world. Masculinity is so important. And it's like he just changed his life overnight. And I think a lot of guys are lacking that, going, well, what's my purpose in this world? A lot of women are going, okay, I'm 16 years old. I know at some point I'm going to get married to a man. I know here's where I want my dream wedding. I'm probably going to have 4 kids. They know that. Whereas as a man, it's like, what am I here to do? Am I here to earn money? Am I here to consume people's courses? am I here to just keep buying pints on a Saturday, go out and get drunk? And am I here to just support my football team and watch that on repeat? And then I think they get that purpose when they have a child. And I think they sit there and go, I am needed. Without me, like this person depends on me. Like wrap that up for the end of the video in a nutshell. How does that feel?
Yeah, I'll summarize it as quickly as I can. But you nailed it when you say about purpose. Human beings are put on this planet to do 2 things, which is reproduce and survive. It's just the way society has gone over years and years that has kind of psyoped everyone into believing that there's more to life than actually family. And life then gets in the way of family, like situations happen. But family and reproducing and raising a family, life doesn't get any better than that. And for me, with my son, I don't know how to describe it. He's so important in my life, and I like to feel that I'm so important in his. I think with the dynamic, it's probably 50-50 because my wife can nurture him and look after him. And at that age, a lot of the time he does want Vicky over me. It's just because he's a toddler, but he's still a baby. He's still very much needy, and he can walk and he can talk to a degree, he can say a lot of words, but he still wants to be cuddled by his mum. Whereas with me, I play with him and I wrestle with him, and there's a whole different role for me to play. And there are times where I'll have to step in. Like if he's testing Vic or testing me, to be fair, I'll have to like increase it slightly. Like there are toddlers test you all the time. If any parents are watching, like he'll stand in front of the TV, even if the TV's not on, and he'll just smack the TV. And he'll look back and he'll be like, are they going to react? And he'll like smile. He'll be like, Harrison, come away. And he would keep doing it. And then Vicky will say it. And then I'll have to like literally go and like pull him away, and I'll tell him off. Not like shout at him or anything. I don't do that, but just kind of get down to his level. I think that's the role of a father. I think the role of a father for both women and men, young women and men, is so, so important. It can be done as a single mum and it can be done as a single dad, but there's a reason why we have 2 parents and not 1. If women could just reproduce by themselves, the world would be a very different place, and the same for men. But it doesn't happen because your offspring need to learn from both sides. They need to learn from how men think, how women think. Talking about girls, a daughter's first love is her father. So if he's a degenerate drunk, she's going to see men like that. That's the standard that you're setting for her. And for me as well, if I look at my son and I'm irrational and I don't treat my wife properly, he's going to look at that and think, that's what all men are like. Because he's only looking at me. He's the only person that he learns from. I'm the only person that he learns from, sorry. So he sees other men, obviously, but he's not talking to them, and they're not his dad. So if I am the opposite of that, and I am loving to my wife, and I look after her, and I eat well, I do push-ups in front of him in the living room and stuff like that. Like, he gets on my back and he loves it, and he sees it as a game. And it's like, if I make it fun for him, if I make things like that fun, like wrestling as well, like he loves it. We'll literally get the cushions on the floor from the sofa and he'll jump on them, and then I'll lie down and he'll jump on me. He's at that age now where he's full of energy and he's not fragile. Toddlers are very robust, right? So we can play a little bit, and he builds that bond with me in a different way to how Vicky would nurture him and cuddle him and be soft with him. You know, you need that. You do need that, because as a man, you need to show women that side sometimes. You need to protect and provide for her and look after her and give her a cuddle, but you also need to know how to go to war sometimes, you know, in business, in life, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that my son's going to know that straight away. It's going to take him years and years and years. But if I show him that stronger side now and again, and I also show him like the neutral dad side of just how to be a good man, or as good as I can be, because I'm obviously not the best man in the world, right? I'm not that egotistical.
You're top two.
Top two. The number one sitting in front of me right now. First man. But if I show him that side, like the loving, tender side of how a man should look after a woman, but also support her and help her, and he does see that as he continues to grow and develop, that will be in his DNA to a degree. That's epigenetics, right? So he has his genetics from me and Vic, then he has his epigenetics of how he's raised and his social status. So I think the role is 50-50. There's just, when you look at it, what makes up the 50%, it's like, well, it's completely different portions. And that's what's missing for a lot of people. That's as quick as I could summarize it, because it's a very deep topic. But I could do one whole video on it, mate. But yeah.
One word to finish. How does it feel? Family life, kid, marriage, missus. One word to sum it all up. Put you on the spot there.
That's very much on the spot. No, I'm trying to think. Purposeful.
It's a wrap.